James Bell of the Boxing Source here with another video. In this video here is to talk about Saul Canelo Alvarez. It has been announced through Lance Pugmire that the trilogy is official. Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin agreed to terms for a third bout between each other, which is scheduled for September 12th at AT&T Stadium, according to Lance Pugmire. This will be, part of the planned schedule that they have for Canelo Alvarez, as he had the first scheduled bout for May 2nd at the T-Mobile Arena between Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders. It is uncertain if that bout will take place due to the reaction to COVID-19, but for right now, September 12th, AT&T Stadium, the third bout between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. This will be very interesting to see where Gennady Golovkin is at this particular stage of his career. He did have that fight against Sergey Derevyanchenko last year at Madison Square Garden, which was a very tough bout that he had to go through. They were kind of planning for him to make the mandatory defense of the IBF title that he won over Sergey Derevyanchenko, and he was supposed to face Camille Cesaro-Meta, but they hadn't really announced that bout to take place yet. And now, due to this whole thing about COVID-19, a lot of the sporting events being canceled, that once things resume, we shall see how Gennady Golovkin reacts to fighting Canelo Alvarez on September 12th. But if y'all, go back, remember they were supposed to have the second bout, Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin, on Cinco de Mayo weekend in 2018, but that bout had to be postponed due to Canelo Alvarez, testing positive for clenbuterol. So they didn't necessarily have that fight on Cinco de Mayo weekend in 2018, and it ended up being on September 15th of 2018. Now, we see here that this third fight will be on September 12th, or it's scheduled for September 12th at AT&T Stadium. So we're going to have three fights that will be on September between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. 2017, 2018, and now 2020. And this, will be for a few middleweight titles. You have Canelo Alvarez, who holds the WBA super title at middleweight, and Gennady Golovkin, who holds the IBF title at middleweight. Just going into, the whole details of it, you had news earlier that they, made a schedule, for Canelo Alvarez, where, he would be fighting Billy Joe Saunders, then fighting Gennady Golovkin, and then after that fighting Ryota Murata in Japan. So he was going to be going up to super middleweight for the WBO super middleweight championship against Billy Joe Saunders. That is, originally scheduled for May 2nd, and then he would fight Gennady Golovkin for the IBF and WBA titles at middleweight in September, and then by December, depending on what happens with that fight in September, it would be Canelo Alvarez versus Ryota Murata over in Japan for to consolidate the WBA titles. But this is just the second step, or maybe the first step, depending on if the fight between Canelo and Saunders gets canceled or not. That we will have Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin on the zone at the AT&T Stadium, scheduled for September 12th, 2020. So that is what we have here so far. Be sure to subscribe to the Boxing Source here on YouTube and catch the Boxing Source Radio Show podcast. That is available on Anchor.fm, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. On that note, folks, I'm out. Peace.